You guys should watch this video.
All over the world, there are 5 stages to Islamization. Whatever the world like to do with this information is left to them. They can either accept it, apply it, get result, or they can carry it and put it in their pocket. That is their business. But it is within my mandate to speak the truth to power and to expose people, bring the light of God to the mind of the nation. There are 5 stages to Islamization in Nigeria. Either in Nigeria or all over the world, there are 5 stages of Islamization. Number 1 is movement. Now, this movement is divided into 2, either by migration or by invasion. So they come to and they migrate to a new settlement, and in the process of that migration, when they come there, they look so peaceful. They are not violent. When they migrate to a new society, that is why you see that they say, these people are loving, these people are kind, these people are peaceful. They migrate. And that's why you find that is happening in the whole of Europe today. They are moving at an accelerated rate, migrating. The second part of that movement, or the second way it can happen, is through invasion. Meaning that they come, conquer the people, fight them, destroy them, and take over their territory. This is what we saw when the Fulanis invaded by Usman Dan Fodio, when they invaded the Hausa land in the north. I hope you know that are indigenous Hausa people. The Gobirs. Is it the Kabawa or something like that? They are indigenous Hausa people. They were conquered by Dan Fodio. So that is by invasion. They come, they invade. So they invaded the north, conquered the north, and they took over the north. But they have not been what they are doing in other parts of Nigeria is by migration. What you see that is happening in Europe today is by migration. So they will go there, settle down there. But at that time, they look so peaceful. You look at them, you say, these people are loving and kind. But there's an agenda. The second stage is population. At the first stage, they are not much, so they look so peaceful. The second stage is to ensure that they become about 40 to 50% of the population of that nation. So they begin to multiply, give birth to 5 children, 7 children, have as many as 5 wives, 4 wives. You think it's by play? No. It's an agenda to ensure that they are the most populous in that place. That's why today you hear them say the north is very populous. Parents giving birth to children they cannot cater for. But there's an agenda just to ensure that they are the most populous. Are you learning? So at that stage, the next stage, once they have been able to settle, the next thing they begin to do is to ensure that they are the majority. So they begin to increase in population, reproducing and reproducing, bringing in their colleagues, bringing in their family from different parts to ensure that they overwhelm that place with number. To ensure that there are about 40-50% of population in that place. That is stage 2. Some 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you go to the UK, you find very little Muslims. Very little. Some 20-25 years ago, if you go to the UK, you find very little mosque. But today, there are thousands of mosques in Europe. In UK, in Canada, there are thousands of them. So when they are coming, when they come, they are so peaceful in stage 1. But in stage 2, the moment they know that they begin to gain number, then that is when the agenda begins to go into place. So the second stage is that they multiply. Then when that has happened, then they move to the third stage. What is the third stage? The third stage is to position themselves in power, in government, in the military. Strategic positions, strategic places. Are you with me? That's why if you go to Abuja now, and you go to federal government parastatals, you see almost everywhere, malams everywhere. Malams everywhere. Position themselves in military. Overwhelm the military in number. The Northerners are the most in the military today. Both army, air force, police, whatever it is, they are more in number. So they position themselves in strategic position in government. They begin to gain power. That was how they did it in Turkey. They begin to gain power. That was how they did it in Lebanon. But there's an agenda. And I pity UK. I pity Europe. Because when their agenda is fully materialized, what is happening in Nigeria will be a chance play to them there. Today you have cities and colonies and cities in Europe that are governed by Muslims, by Arabs. You think they're trying to be liberal. The Europe is playing political correctness, but they have no idea what they're doing. So stage 3 is that they position themselves in key places in government. Key places in government. Go to any federal government parastatal today in Nigeria, I assure you, you find them all. In military, they're there. Civil servant, they're there. Are you with me? That's what they do. That's stage 3. Then when they know that they have succeeded in stage 3, then they move to stage 4. Stage 4 is the most dangerous. And what is stage 4? Implementation of Sharia. Stage 4 happened in Nigeria in the year 2000. 1999-2000. That was when stage 4 happened in Nigeria. Where Sharia was implemented in Nigeria. In 12 northern states in Nigeria. 12. Every time I remember that, it breaks my heart. And I begin to ask myself, what were the father of faith in Nigeria looking at? What were they looking? What were the Christian leaders looking? When people were implementing Sharia, knowing fully well that the laws of Sharia permit somebody to kill another person. speaks against their God. It permits them to kill, to destroy somebody's property that is not in alignment with the principle of Sharia. Knowing that the principles of Sharia bring extremism. This is what brings terrorism today. So every time I remember, I've asked myself, how did this happen in Nigeria? That 12 states in Nigeria is practicing Sharia. What were the Christian leaders looking at that period? But you know, just like it was in the days of Turkey, the Christian leaders were busy building tabernacles, 20,000 capacity, 100,000 capacity. They were priding themselves in how big the capacity is, how big the cathedrals are. And these guys were strategically positioning themselves. The Christian leaders were busy raising big cathedrals. They were positioning themselves of Islam, the Islamic way, the Muslims, they were positioning themselves. The jihadists, they were positioning themselves in government. And when that happens, they implemented Sharia. Today, all the big cathedrals have been turned to mosque in those nations. Stage 4 is the most dangerous. The moment you have allowed them to succeed in implementing Sharia, there's no way stage 5 will not succeed. I'm giving you stages. I'm telling you how it is. I speak by the Spirit. I'm not speaking carelessly. For the Lord is he that worketh in me both to will and to do of his good pleasure. That which I speak is by the Spirit. And there is to Sharia. Knowing fully well that the principles of Sharia breed extremism, the teachings of Sharia breed extremism in people. What we are seeing today is as a result of the implementation of stage 4, which is that happened in the year 1999, 2000, 2001, where 12 states, starting with Zamfara State, implemented Sharia by a governor. In fact, the governor, I've forgotten that his name, the governor said it is his desire, it is the desire that the whole of Nigeria practice Sharia. And we say we are a secular state. So they started with 12 states. How did they allow 12 states of Nigeria to be practicing a law that gives another person the right to kill another person in the name of blasphemy? How did they allow that? What were the Christian leaders looking at that period? Of course, I was a boy at that age, in the early 2000s. What were the fathers of faith looking at? What was God looking at? Today, many people have been killed in the north simply because of Sharia. They'll say you speak against their God. They behead you. They behead somebody. They bust Deborah Samuel alive. Sonny Jackson has been sentenced to life in prison, and many others have been killed in the name of blasphemy. At the moment, why do I need to be careful to speak? And you say I speak against your God. Can't your God come and fight for himself? But they allow such a law in Nigeria. A law that permits somebody to stone, to kill another person. Stage 4 is the most dangerous. Implementation of Sharia. Today, you see in the UK, people that ran away from their nation to go and seek asylum. Today, they're shouting in the UK, Sharia for UK. We want Sharia in the UK. Sharia in the UK. And I tell you, if the UK permits that, even if it is one state that legalize Sharia, that institute Sharia, they're finished. When the war, let them continue to play political correctness. But when the war starts, they will regret permitting it. Now they are permitting themselves. Today you see mayors and councillors and all those people in the UK that are Muslims. You think it's not? There's an agenda. They are waiting. The moment they know that they are gaining majority of the powers in the state, then they begin to implement laws that is contrary to the indigenous, that is contrary to the original laws of the people there. Stage 4. And when stage 4 has been achieved, that there is the implementation of Sharia, then the next stage is jihad. The moment Sharia is succeeded, jihad. What we are seeing today is jihad. All the chaos, overwhelm the nation with so much chaos. So that the people will be bowed, they'll be forced to bow and accept what you're paying. Jihad. Everything you are seeing today is jihad. Ha. Oh my God. If you know how many lives have been lost to this cause. That's why I'll keep saying it. Sharia must be abolished in Nigeria. We are a secular nation, not an Islamic nation. We are a secular nation, not a what? Not an Islamic nation. We cannot be in a nation to say we are a secular nation. And some people are carrying a law that permit them to cause chaos. Sharia must be abolished. If Nigeria wants to remain peaceful, if Nigeria wants to get an atom of peace again, everything that permits extremism, everything that facilitates extremism must be abolished. Then they go for jihad. In that jihad, it's either you accept or you'll be killed. What you see in community in church, Benue, Kaduna, Nasarawa, part of Taraba, part of Gombe, Borno State, is jihad. And now they have entered Kwara State, jihad. From there they will move to Osun. From there, the moment they conquer the southwest, then they'll begin to move from southwest to north, from north, and be converging to ensure that southeast, because southeast will be the most difficult for them to conquer. So they begin to come from this side, begin to come from there to ensure that they overwhelm the people at the center. That must not happen in Nigeria. Jihad. These 5 stages, everywhere you go all over the world, these are the 5 stages of Islamization. I'm sharing it with you all today. Whatever you like, you do with this information is entirely your own business. But you'll be very foolish to discard what I just said. Save it, keep it in your phone everywhere. Be watching it. You'll be foolish to discard this information. You'll be foolish to discard this information. Like I said, I don't have anything against Muslims. Practice your religion, my practice mine. If I have a mandate to preach to you, if I preach to you, you don't accept, go. There is no forcing in the kingdom of God. But for you to say you want to Islamize, you want to turn the Nigeria to a Sharia state, that will never work. It will never work.